Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Legaleaze, please. My name is Natasha Robinson, and I have the privilege of being your host for today. I am going to take just a couple of moments and make sure that we are all on one accord and that we are able to do what is necessary to participate. Now, because we are still in a pandemic, it means that I am at home, which means then that home things are still occurring. So what does that mean? What that means is that you are going to hear people outside landscaping, okay? Because of all the hours that they had to choose to come, they chose right now. So there's nothing I can do about it. We're just going to talk right on through it. But if you are here, can you please let me know that you were here? By, you know how we do it. We go in the chat and we say hello, and then I shout you out. So I just want to make sure that we are all on one accord. Hello, Sora Boothang, how you doing? Good to see you. Take a moment and click like, click love, click share, okay? Because today is going to be a very rich conversation. And so, you know, at Legaleaze, please, we are all about language of liberation. We are about making sure that we try to deconstruct, that we try to demystify legal language. Okay. And sometimes in that search for liberation in language, what we do is we come across not just intersections of different ideals and careers, but the integration of it. And so this is, or has been, I should say, a hell of a week. Hey, y'all, how you doing? A hell of a week. Okay, a hell of a week. Did I say it was a hell of a week? It was a hell of a week. And so during this week, really, I should say in the last year or so, can you all hear that? Can you all hear that? Okay, so I'm just going to talk right through them cutting my lawn, okay, because we're in a pandemic. All right. For at least a year, and I will say at least a year, I know this because I started this platform when George Floyd was murdered. That's when I started Legaleaze, please. And so I know it's been at least a year where we have been inundated with Black trauma, with Black violence, with black pain, with Black death. And what we try to do, some of us, is we try to remain alert and we try to remain aware. And we do that. But sometimes in the way we do it, we further perpetuate the trauma that we are trying to avoid, that we are trying to not put on someone else as a burden. And so I have today our guest, Dr. Danielle Buhuro. I was going to roll my R and then I realized I couldn't. Dr. Danielle Buhuro, she is here with us today. She is the editor and contributor to this book, which is called Spiritual Care in an Age of Black Lives Matter, Examining Spiritual and Prophetic Needs of African Americans in a Violent America. Good afternoon, Dr. See you. And so this book, if I remember, came out a little after 2016. Okay. And you know what happened in January 2016. It wasn't that racism was on the rise. It was that racism was on the exposure. There are a lot more things that were just outright, that were blatant, that were filmed. And so it was in the context of this that Dr. Buhuro and her contributors wrote this book. And when I tell you this is a book that you need to have, I have put it in the comments of where you can purchase it, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Dr. Buhuro on. Before I do that, I ask that you like, that you love, that you share, because this is an important informational conversation where we are going to be talking about how to live in, how to live through, how to live with the times in which we live while giving ourselves spiritual care in the age of the movements and the killings and the over policing and sometimes the oversharing? How do we juxtapose being aware with making sure we don't further perpetuate trauma? So, without further ado, I am going to bring on our guest, Dr. Buhuro, who is right here with me. Good afternoon, sis.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I don't know why Facebook family, if you don't mind me sharing, and I know someone feels this way. I don't know why every time I see my sister Natasha, I feel like I need to say Reverend, Reverend, Reverend. So family, if you don't mind, just can you just refer to her as that? It just
No, no,
no,
no.
I don't know.
No, we
I don't
bind
know.
we
I just
bind that.
always
We bind that. I told you the other day how I feel about
I
that.
don't
And
know
you
why. I
just
just
you letting the enemy use you. You're letting the enemy use you. So I don't want to hear that. We're not talking about that right now.
I'm so happy to be on this show with Reverend Natasha Robinson.
No, no,
Oh
no, no,
man,
no. That,
this
you
does
know
my
what?
heart well.
And I'm sure it does. But in order for me to keep this a cuss-free zone, because you know I will laugh in a minute. I will go to the left in a minute. And so, for those of you all who are joining us, this is just what we do. We go back and forth, and the only thing that is missing are some beverages and some cussing.
That's it.
But
That's it. That's it.
we have showed up in our full, authentic selves, and so we are going to get into it. It is a pleasure, pleasure, pleasure to have you here because your presence and your written work and what you do every day, I'm telling you, it changes lives. I'm not lying. I'm not, trying to gas you up or anything. I truly appreciate who you are and what you do. So, in order for the people to know who you are and what you do, why don't you introduce yourself to the Legaleaze Please community?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this invitation. And I want to say thank you so much to our sister in the Facebook chat that's calling it out right now, saying, Reverend, thank you, sister. Thank you so much, sister.
And
Um,
there's a little bit of enemy in her too. So we gonna bind that real quick over the internet. We're gonna put our hands on the computer right now.
is that help me pronounce? I don't want to mess up your
A
name.
coastal one? Yes, that is.
Akosua. Yes.
Yes, that's one of
Thank you
my
so
best
much.
friends in the whole wide world. Don't let the enemy use you or her.
Thank you so much, sister Akosua. Thank you so much, sister. Appreciate you and love you. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Danielle Buhuro. I currently serve as a CPE supervisor for Advocate Aurora Healthcare, particularly the medical centers of Christ Medical Center, Trinity Hospital, and South Suburban Hospital. And I'm so excited to be here at the invitation of my sister in this phenomenal program. And I thank you for all of your hard work during this time of police brutality and COVID-19, two pandemics, I often say, two pandemics of police brutality and COVID-19. I so appreciate we need legal instruction, legal advice now more than ever, like never before. And so I appreciate your hard work with Legaleaze, please. It has certainly been a help to me, both personally and professionally. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you
I
very much.
yes, I felt passionate about this particular topic for a number of reasons. Oftentimes, when we talk about spiritual care and how to care for ourselves, often we've stayed in conversations primarily around spirituality, faith, theology. And I began to wrestle with, as spiritual care providers, as chaplains, as pastors, how do we reimagine spiritual care? That's my word for 2020, and it's a 2021. Reimagine, reimagine, reimagine. COVID-19 came along and blew up the world, so to speak. And so all of our lives all of our professions, the way we do things, I believe has to be re-examined. And so when we think about spiritual care, I've often thought, we need to reimagine what does that look like in light of police brutality in particular, in light of racism in particular. What does that look like? And so I was excited to present this work and to work with some fine contributors as we delve into how we care for ourselves during this time. Because I must say something, and I hope I don't get kicked out of the Legaleaze studios. But
You won't.
thank you, thank you. I understand as people of faith, as religious leaders, as clergy, we often feel as though much of our conversation has to deal with theological matters. But I'm of the opinion, belief, theory that so much of what is happening to us is psychological or emotional and sociological. And so, how do we begin to bring in psychological theories, emotional centered theories, and sociological theories into our ministry and ways of being and doing and caring for people? So, I was excited to jump into this topic of what does it mean to care for our fellow brothers and sisters and not just recite superficial theological religious cliches like don't be afraid, have more faith than fear. That is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Faith over fear. I'm
Why is
telling
that
you,
stupid? Why
that is
why
the
is that
most
stupid?
silliest. It's the most silliest phrase I've heard in my life, and it's not theoretical. Why? Because we are human beings who experience human emotions and human feelings. Did you know, according to a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful counselor by the name of Gloria Wilcox, all human beings experience 6 major feelings: sad, mad, scared, peaceful, joyful, powerful. Well, what we do sometimes in religious circles is we tell people don't feel afraid. Yes, COVID-19 has arrived, but don't be afraid. Have more faith than fear. Have faith over fear. And I always say, theoretically, this is a useless statement that is an alternative fact. It's a lie. We are human beings, and so we will experience fear. We will experience fear. So telling people not to be afraid, not to have fear, is actually disingenuous and inauthentic. And frankly, it is a lie. Not just a lie, not just a regular lie. It's a whole Donald Trump lie. It's a whole alternative fact. And so,
Mhm.
how do we begin to resist and reject these surface theological statements that we make and care for the authentic, genuine feelings that people have? I ought to be able to say, you know what? My mother unfortunately contracted COVID-19 and I'm scared as hell. And
Mhm.
someone
Mhm.
come alongside me and say, Danielle, we totally understand. You have every right to feel the way you feel. And so
Yeah.
I was excited about this opportunity for us to reimagine how do we care for people in community and resist some of this unhealthy theology that we have been spewing that's not helpful and not healthy for our
Yeah.
community.
Spewing, hashtagging, gifting, imaging, memeing, and you are absolutely correct. I think about, well, you say that you are a CPE, NCP, which that stands for clinical pastoral education.
Yes, Reverend, you got it. Yes, Reverend, you better say it. Yes,
I
Reverend.
almost, I almost gave you the sanity in me. I had to sit on my hands real quick. So CPE stands for clinical pastoral education. And so you are basically, I think, if I were to put it in layman's terms, you're teaching pastors and preachers how to be effective pastors and preachers.
Yes, yes,
Am
yes.
I in the area
You
of that?
are, you are. And so now we see that pastoral care is taking a shift. Normally, you're used to seeing a chaplain when you get sick and you go to the hospital. Now we're seeing that our brothers and sisters are suffering in community. And so we need chaplains, a part of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. We need people who are willing to go into community and care for our brothers and sisters in ways that are radical, progressive, and liberating like never before. And so there are chaplains now who are becoming a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, the hashtag Say Her Name campaign, that are saying, aha, we need to reimagine spiritual care that takes into consideration addressing social justice ills that exist in our community today.
So it sounds like what I hear you saying is that church is more than just brick and mortar. It is in the streets.
Isn't it ironic? And I'm not going to spew bad theology on your show, Reverend, but isn't it ironic that we find ourselves in a pandemic that causes us to no longer be able to worship inside a building, but now we have to go outside of a building and be more concerned with what is happening outside our church doors, right? On Sunday mornings, we were so enthralled with making sure we attended choir meetings and Bible studies inside the church and administrative meetings inside the church and Sunday morning worship inside the church. And isn't it ironic that we find ourselves in a pandemic that causes us now to social distance and no longer be able to physically enter a church? And so I think maybe, just maybe, this is the divine's way of nudging us, pushing us to think about how do we get back to what is the real reason that the Black Liberation Church exists. And that's to do ministry outside the four walls of an institution. Maybe social distancing has a way of reaffirming what is the original calling of the Black church to begin with. And that's not to build worship centers. That's not
the
to
social
build worship
distancing.
centers.
The social distancing, but the spiritual connecting, which is what you address. When you talk about spiritual care, if someone says, I don't have a theology, or I am not spiritual, I am not religious, what is it about the contents in this book that dictate that they should read this as well?
All right, I have developed a cool acronym, and I'd ask viewers to quickly grab pen and paper. A cool acronym is first and foremost, we want to invite people to think about person's social needs. S, first letter in this acronym, social needs, right? Is this person unemployed? Is this person been a victim of police brutality? Is this person suffering from lack of affordable health care insurance? Is this person homeless? What are this person's particular social needs? And how do you minister to that first and foremost? Then I jump over into thinking about emotional needs. Next letter in the acronym is E, right after S for social needs. The next letter in the acronym is E, emotional needs. Did you know there's a phenomenal therapist by the name of Monica Williams, Monnica. She's got two N's in her first name. Monica Williams suggests that racism now impacts persons' mental health, Black people in particular. There is research that our sister has done with the American Psychological Association that suggests every time we watch a video of police brutality that goes viral on social media, every time we experience a microaggression of police brutality in the daily operations and functionings of our life, like going to the grocery store or simply going shopping, right? She says that this takes a toll on our mental health. And literally, she says racism is causing us to have depression, mental illness, anxiety, and other forms of PTSD like never before. And so it is so important as chaplains, as people of faith, as clergy, that we begin to care for people's emotional needs. What does that mean? Do we have referrals to therapists that we can give the person? I invite every clergy person to create a pamphlet, if you will, of all of the mental health resources around their faith community, all of the therapists, mental health therapists that they know, so that when someone comes to you in need of care, you can make referrals to them and give them resources on where they can go to talk to somebody, to have someone to meet their emotional needs. The next letter in our acronym is L. L, after S, after E, there's L. This means life meaning and purpose. Caring for people means helping people discover, discern, talk through, listen to them, process what is my life meaning and purpose. Why am I here on this earth? What am I called to be? What am I called to do? Oftentimes, in the face of racism, we become down and out about our lives, and we no longer know what is the divine calling us to be and do. And so it's so helpful when we talk about spiritual care. It's oftentimes not only to take care of people's social needs and emotional needs, but also to help people begin the process. What is my life's meaning and purpose? And last but not least in the acronym, it's the last letter, then I'll pause, is F. F, 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 F. Many people wrestle with faith needs during this pandemic, during police brutality, during COVID-19. Many people believe, God is punishing me, or God is testing me. I've heard and seen on Facebook so much bad theology about COVID-19. Oh, this is a test from the Lord. I've heard people cite a scripture inappropriately. Oh, if my people who are called by my name would turn from their wicked ways. That is terrible theology. That is bad. That is unhealthy. COVID-19 is not a punishment. COVID-19 is also not a test. We have many clergy who are telling people, oh, we are present day Jobs and Jobettes. And COVID-19 is a test. Not true. That is a lie. COVID-19 is not a punishment. COVID-19 is not a test. And so we are called to challenge this unhealthy faith, theological perspectives, and say, no, the divine is with you. God is Emmanuel for those who are Christian. The divine is with you in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of this health challenge. Now, what those letters spell: social needs, emotional needs, life meaning and purpose needs, and faith needs. I am suggesting that spiritual care is about caring for the self of people, SELF, people's social needs, emotional needs, life meaning and purpose needs, and faith needs. That is how we care for people. Notice this acronym is linear. Meaning, what does it mean? That's so important. What does it mean for me to know that even as a clergy person myself, I'm not going to start talking about God and Jesus? The F is last. That's intentional in the acronym. And I know that's difficult for some of us as clergy folks because we immediately want to start talking about God. But what does it mean to first start with S, social needs, then move to E, emotional needs, and leave talking about Jesus last? Now, I know that's hard. I know that's difficult because some of us feel like we need to start with Jesus, that we center Jesus, that we center faith, that we center theology. And so my book, my work has been around saying, no, spiritual care in the age of Black Lives Matter means centering people's social needs first and people's emotional needs second, and waiting a little later to talk about Jesus and God.
Yeah. That is so good, Dr. Buhuro, because what I hear you saying as a layperson is there is no religious prerequisite for my social emotional, and life needs to be met, which means in intangible, in the way I'm processing is if I'm in custody for a felony and I am being held in custody during the times of COVID, that those who come into the jail, there is no prerequisite for me to get what it is that I need because I may or may not have a theology. I may or may not believe in Jesus. That does not, it's the irony of saying, okay, well, we believe in Jesus the divine, but as it relates to humanity, you got to get right before you get protected. And that your book, I think, just so eloquently, you and the contributors, you talk about that in such a way that it's not, how dare I say it, churchy, but it gets in where it fits in. It's very practical. You do not have to have a card carrying lifelong BTU BYPU membership with your parents' names on the back of a pew in order to get this information.
That's
Um,
it.
yeah, yeah. I want to ask you next. You told us the reason. You told us the audience. How did you assemble your contributors to this book? And who are some of the contributors in terms of their careers and their vocations and their call?
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble now.
No, I'm not, because I got a book right here. That is, I don't need names because
We
we always going to forget. But I want to focus more on the what do they do? What do they specialize in?
I love the academy. I'm currently at Chicago Theological Seminary working on a PhD. I'm an ordained clergy in the United Church of Christ. I have a Master of Divinity degree. I have a Doctorate of Ministry degree, and I'm currently working on a PhD. But I started to say to myself, I wanted practitioners, people out here in the streets doing the work. I didn't want people that sit in classrooms and philosophize about the problem. Now, that's helpful in some environments, but I wanted to assemble a group of people who are experts in the community who are doing the work. I think that it is so important. We have a lot of persons who I'm going to shift. We have a lot of persons who know how to process a problem, but we have only a small number of people who are in community using experiences in the community to solve the problem. And so I wanted to pull together people who are actually in community, working behind these particular issues that they are highlighting. So I was so excited to have the Reverend Dr. Sharon Ellis Davis, who is a domestic violence advocate, who has worked with domestic violence victims for the last 30 years, contributing to talk about what does it mean to tackle the issue of domestic violence in an age of police brutality, where in heterosexual relationships, if a woman who is a victim of domestic violence feels afraid to call the police, even though someone is beating her, a perpetrator is oppressing her, is being violent with her, she still in her mind is wrestling with, wow, what if I call the police and the police shoot him in an act of police brutality? And so I was excited to get practitioners who have their hands on the ground, contributing to each of their various topics. I think is very, very, very important. And so there are several contributors that I'm excited about. In addition to Reverend Dr. Sharon Ellis Davis, there is Reverend Dr. Dolores Brown Daniels, who has been doing much work the last 5 years around suicide awareness in the African American community. As I shared earlier, we are seeing that, according to research by Monica T. Williams, Racism is now having a huge impact on African Americans' mental health. And as a result, we're now seeing a rise in suicide among our
Mm,
brothers and sisters. And so,
mhm,
persons like Reverend Dr. Dolores Brown Daniels have been doing much work around how do we, as people of faith, address suicide in our communities in light of mental illness because of police brutality and other forms of microaggressions of racism
mhm,
that we are now faced with. I was especially excited to have Reverend Michael Crumpler talk about what is the role of HIV and AIDS, especially in light of police brutality. He is an ordained clergy of the UU denomination who has been working hard to talk about disparities among African American brothers and sisters who suffer from HIV and AIDS and don't get the resources, don't
mm.
get what Magic Johnson and Cookie got, but now have to wrestle with HIV and AIDS in light of lack of uh, sociological resources and other health resources.
Mhm,
And so,
mhm.
so for me, I was excited because each one of the contributors are people currently working in the field.
That makes it that makes a difference. Um, because when you were naming all of the people, um, uh, I think about the intersectionality and the integration of law, mental health, and spirituality. Um, because I think that for most of us, these are their own lane. Very seldom do we think about how they are already connected or how they can be connected. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about the fact that in our country, the United States Constitution guarantees the right of every person who is arrested the right to have an attorney. If they cannot afford an attorney will be appointed to them. And in all of the years and all of the cases that I have represented people, it never occurred to me that what they also need to be appointed is a mental health therapist and a chaplain.
Mhm.
Because notwithstanding the two pandemics that you mentioned earlier, uh, it is very stressful and very for many people who are incarcerated or face criminal cases, dehumanizing to have to tell for the defendant. You're telling a stranger and you're trying to convince the stranger who is your attorney, who's supposed to advocate for you, what happened in the case. For those who are victimized, it is very stressful to go through a trauma and then to get re-traumatized when you are now telling your story first to the advocate, then to the prosecutor, then to the judge or jury if that is what the defendant decides that she or he wants to do. And then for the witness, I think about, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Danielle Frazier, the baby that filmed George Floyd's murder, about how she didn't sign up for that. And yet she made the decision to continue to record when the powers that be, when the militarism, when the police were yelling at her and how they could have taken her into custody. And she kept on filming how people who see trauma or who witness trauma, how they are re traumatized in the telling of their story. And so I think about that integration and how for my framework now, we don't just need these attorneys. We need those to be able to treat the entire person. Uh, and so when I read your book and when I think about your work, I think about the fact that there are so many different nuances so many things for different things that we need to take on proactively to make sure that when these persons leave this system, that they leave with something intact other than an outcome that they, had hoped for. Can you speak to that, or tell me what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, yes. What I am proposing is holistic care. That's my favorite word right now. Holistic care is that we begin to address all the parts of the body of someone, and we move away from simply quoting scriptures and saying, "Let's have prayer."
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell
Mm-hmm.
you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you a secret? Can I share a secret with you
Yes, you
and
can.
Facebook family and
Yes,
Legaleaze
you can.
Please community? Uh, I was about 16 years old, and we ran into some tough times when I was a kid. My mom, my dad, brothers, we ran into some tough times. My dad lost his job. It became difficult to pay the rent, and we became homeless. We became homeless for a little while. And my mom and dad went to the church house to talk with the pastor of the church. We were attending a mega church at the time on the south side of Chicago, right off of 79th and Western Liberty Temple, full gospel church. And my mom said, let's go to Apostle Clifford E. Turner and let's ask Apostle Clifford E. Turner if he can give us back some of the thousands of dollars in offering that we have given to the church and help us get a hotel or a motel room for the night. My mother called up his assistant, said it's an emergency. I need to meet with Apostle, and they went to Apostle and explained we're homeless and we got kids. And Apostle said, "Well, let's pray about it." He said, "Let me hold your hands. Let us bow our heads, and let's petition the throne of grace." So my mother and father said, okay. They bowed their heads. They closed their eyes. They petitioned the throne of grace, thinking, okay, we're going to do this first, and then there's going to be something that comes second. And there was nothing that came second. Apostle said this nice prayer and then said, God bless you. God be with you. And keep holding on to God's unchanging hand. And it was at this moment I said, wow. Wow. So what did I do, Reverend? I said, well, since the church house didn't help, I'm gonna go down the street and talk to these brothers who wear this blue and black and who's selling this crack cocaine, and I'm gonna go hang out with them. And they ministered to me and said, oh, you hungry? I said, yeah, I'm starving. I'm hungry. And they said, come on, work for us. We're gonna put you to work. We're gonna let you hold this. You're gonna stand on this corner, and we're gonna take you afterwards to go get something to eat and give your family some money to go stay in a motel for the night. And I said to myself, wow, why is it people in community who are doing these quote unquote unhealthy things know how to provide more care for me holistically than the church house, than the preachers, than the clergy, right? Wow, wow, wow. Who are the religious Pharisees and Sadducees that exist among us today that are good at reciting what thus says the Lord and can recite doctrines and laws, but at the end of the day don't have a spirit of care to care for the holistic needs of people? One of the things that I love about Jesus as one who is Christian, one of the things that I love, 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 love about Jesus is Jesus said, let me feed people first before we start
Then
talking about the kingdom of heaven,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
Oh, this
Physical
little
needs
boy,
first.
this
Yep.
little boy has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Let us eat first. Let us multiply this food first, because I hear your stomach is grumbling and you're hungry. And I say to myself, wow, we lost that. The church has lost that. We have become more committed to building beautiful churches and edifices for worship instead of doing the work of ministering to people. We have become invested in our building funds. Meanwhile, there's hungry brothers and sisters out on the streets that are hungry and homeless.
And see, my response to that in my Sunday school upbringing, because I am not a minister, is that if I
Reverend,
were to
Reverend.
show whatever, if I were to juxtapose the meeting with the minister with the meeting with the brothers on the street, I would then ask, where was God? God was on the
Oh,
corner.
oh, yes, yes, yes,
God was on the corner. If God is with us, then brother, God is you.
yes,
Because
yes,
God is supposed to be dwelling in you. It is more than just somebody who's out there. It is someone who
yes,
is in here. And people will meet God, if that's what they believe in, God and Jesus, faster with what is done for them, rather what is said to them.
that's it,
Um,
that's it,
and
that's
and
it.
that irritates me, because there, as I said earlier, there should be no prescription, no mandates, no prerequisite for getting the care that you need. You can believe in a whole bunch of stuff. If you are hungry, if you are thirsty, if you need a home, if you need sustenance, if you need support, then that is God. That is Jesus. That is what we are supposed to be doing. And so, as you said so eloquently in your examples, that when you look at examples of Jesus, it was always the what you'll need first. Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? You know, where are you living? And then maybe an extension of that conversation. So you just got me thinking about different things. I think about how we are to meet the needs of those, particularly in this pandemic. And my question to you is, let's pivot a little bit. Some of the needs that people feel that they have to do with the issue of awareness. Awareness of what is going on in the community, awareness of what is going on in the nation, in the world, what have you. And so, in the times in which we live, social media and video seem to sometimes have a double-edged consequence.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
the benefit is you get the word out quicker when there is an injustice or there
yes,
is something where you wish to galvanize people in a matter of seconds.
yes,
But at the same time, in the sharing and resharing of Black trauma, of Black pain, of Black death, of lynching, of over policing, that can also cause what it is that we are trying to prevent.
yes.
What do you say to that? How do we get in that space of, I'm making you aware, but I am also not being a co-conspirator in my own demise?
Maybe that means I won't share the video.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
Mm-hmm.
back up. Let me back
Mm-hmm.
up. I want to give 4 or 5 what I call social media self-care tips. Four or
Yes.
five social media self-care tips.
Okay,
Four or
I'm gonna type
five
them as you said.
social media self-care tips. Number one, how can I read an article about a story without necessarily watching and observing the video? Because we are discovering, again, I love this sister. I'm going to keep citing her name. Monica Williams suggests that watching videos of police brutality and violence against other Black people is also a re-traumatization of you
Mm-hmm.
as the observer of the video.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I want to get the news out about George Floyd, I could share George Floyd's story, but that doesn't mean I have to actually watch the video. Now, I know our Black Lives Matter movement became popular and famous in sharing videos of violence against African American gentlemen in particular. And so I understand They were following a perspective that Martin Luther King appreciated in the civil rights era of having media actually film and showcase and highlight for the world to see violence against Black people. I understand that. That is a wonderful social justice strategy and technique. But what we're not accounting for is the trauma that now comes along with us constantly watching these videos. Because what we've discovered is I don't just view that video once. I view that video several times. Why? Because I've got about 1,500 Facebook friends. About a third of them are also sharing that video. So as I'm scrolling through my news feed, I'm literally seeing that video multiple times. And that begins to play on my consciousness. We have people in our community, I hate to say, who are now profiting off of sharing the pain of Black trauma.
Tell the truth.
I'm going to say that again.
Tell the
I'm going
truth.
to say that again. We have media executives who look like us, who have our same skin, who are now producing movies highlighting Black trauma and are profiting off of our pain. I think of Executive Director Lena Waithe, who recently produced Them. It is a knockoff of Jordan Peele's Us, if I do say so myself, who is sharing Black pain and now causing trauma. And we don't talk about that. We pass that off. We don't boycott that. We don't have any outrage about that. The irony for me is I want to invite us to think about animals, dogs in particular. Did you know Facebook in particular has a particular alert that will not allow you to share violence towards a dog or a cat or other animals without automatically blocking the image?
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
But watch this. It's okay. It's okay to now share a video image of George Floyd being kneed in the neck and taking his final moments. But Mark Zuckerberg has instituted security mechanisms so that you cannot share a photo of an animal being abused because that's considered against Facebook policies. But why is it okay to show a picture of a 15-year-old baby girl in Ohio lying dead in the street who's just been shot 4 times in the chest by an officer? But yet a dog or a cat, a video of a dog or cat being abused cannot be shared on Facebook. I literally can have my account suspended because I shared an image of a dog or a cat being abused. But meanwhile, an image showing baby girl Micaiah Bryant can go viral on Facebook. We need to begin to ask ourselves, are we committing what I call pornography, Black death pornography, in the sharing of deceased Black bodies? I say that Facebook now and other forms of social media are becoming nothing but digital lynching trees. During the period of African enslavement, from 1619 to 1865, white racist European slave masters used to force Black families to watch their relatives being lynched. To create psychological trauma in their mindset of their relatives. As a matter of fact, if I could even be more technical, even white slave masters used to hold entire picnic gatherings with food and all and bring their children to watch lynchings, but more so, forcibly require the lynched person's family to watch their loved one being lynched. And so now I have to say, social media is turning into a digital lynching tree where
My.
now you can lynch me and it goes viral.
Mm.
And nobody is connecting the dots to say this is wrong. This is not right. Why is it Mark Zuckerberg can have security measures around animals for fear of PETA, but yet and still circulate and allow videos of Eric Gardner taking his last breath to be circulated freely and widely
Mm.
with no accountability? Present day lynchings, present day lynchings, if you ask me. And so I think when it comes to social media, we have to take serious not sharing these videos, not watching these videos.
Wait.
Or
You
number
said
two.
three.
I'm
I was gonna say
sorry.
what?
I'm sorry. Number two, I'm
Okay.
losing my count. Number two, I say that we must be intentional about protecting our peace and not getting stuck into arguments on social media with white supremacists and colonizers. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. Sometimes I even get triggered. I get triggered. I have to respond. When a colonizer or white supremacist or a white supremacist undercover as a liberal or liberationist says something, I must respond. And so
Mm-hmm.
we say, number two, how do we resist responding? How do we resist responding? How do we resist responding and protecting our peace? Number three, it is so important for us to log off from social media. Take a social media break. You don't have to be on social media 24/7. And that's hard
Mm-hmm.
even for me. First thing I do before I jump out of bed, I open my eyes and I grab my iPhone on my bedstand and I scroll through my Facebook to see what's happening for the day. Or before I close my eyes and go to sleep at night, I scroll through my news feed. And we're now saying, that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
Mm-hmm.
healthy. Don't start your day off looking at social media. Don't end your day looking at social media.
Mm-hmm.
And last
Mm-hmm.
but not least, now this one is going to be hard. There are now a new group of people becoming sexually aroused from seeing Black death and trauma. Hence why we call it porn. How do we seek mental health therapy for the ways in which we are literally becoming sexually aroused at seeing Black bodies mutilated
Mm.
and dying? How do we become, how do we address our own mental health challenges around the ways in which we are becoming aroused at seeing deceased Black bodies?
Mm.
Now, that's a mouthful. I'll pause for a minute right there. I know someone's
Yeah,
going to
I
get
need to take
upset because I said that.
a
But
breath on that one.
yes, there are actually people who are becoming sexually aroused at
My
seeing
line.
the decaying Black bodies.
Mm, mm, mm,
And not
mm.
all of those people are white supremacist oppressors or colonizers. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
people are in our same skin, which is why I love when the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright would say, everybody who is your color ain't your kind,
Ain't your
and
kind.
everybody with your same skin ain't your kin. There are even
Yeah.
people who look like you and me, Natasha,
Yeah. Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
becoming aroused, sexually
Yeah.
aroused
Yeah.
at seeing decaying Black bodies.
My mind. I
I'll pause right there.
yeah, we just need to
I'm sorry. I'll
take
pause
that
right
in.
there.
No. We said we were going to talk about it because two things. One, it needs to be discussed. Well, three things. One, it needs to be discussed. Two, it needs to be discussed by professionals who can curate the space for the discussion. Not me, but you. And then three, these conversations are probably being had anyway. And so we need that. And I'm not going to say every conversation needs to be publicized. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is hopefully this is the precursor to a continuing conversation about what can we do and what can we refrain from doing as it relates to being aware of what's going on, but not buying into the trauma that we could contribute by continuing to force our awareness on people. I know in being a criminal justice professor and being a former assistant public defender, that's all I knew was trauma and violence, particularly as I started representing more people who were charged with felonies. So as I got to do more cases involving kidnapping, sexual assault, home invasion, first degree murder, second degree murder, it was not until 2 years ago. Now I had started working with the public defender's office on March 13th, 2000. Ironically, the same day, 20 years later, that Breonna Taylor was killed, March 13th, 2020. That's why I can remember it. I started with the public defender's office March 13th, 2000. And it was not until 2019 that I began to realize all of the compacted trauma that was in my body, because whatever I felt about looking at a crime scene or reviewing witness statements or listening to my clients, I was the container for that, because now I have to synthesize it in such a way and advocate for someone else without first checking to see, is Natasha okay? So you're talking about 12 and a half years of me prepping for cases, eating my lunch over crime scene photos, listening to people talk about horrific things, me reading medical examiner reports and going to crime scenes and looking at autopsy photos, just all of that. Now, although that may be in the framework of criminal law, it is still trauma.
Yes.
It is still trauma.
Yes.
And that is where I see the intersectionality and the integration of law and mental health and spirituality.
Yes.
Which leads to my next question, which is, what is your why? Why do you do this? And how are you able, there's a two-part. What is your why? How are you able to continue to do this work? And how do you curate your joy?
I can't say what I do to curate my joy live on national media.
We could have an after party. We could have an after party. If this was Legaleaze after hours, I'd be like, child, we grown here.
That's it.
Yeah, we grown. Go ahead, Grace.
That's it. One, when I was about 15 years old, my oldest brother died. His name was Eric Williams. He died. He was 24 years old at the time, and he died as a result of complications to AIDS. We were my family gathered at Cook County Hospital, and we thought he had pneumonia, and we thought he had died as a result of pneumonia. And the emergency room doctor comes into the family waiting area and says he died, and but you can't go and visit him because you may. This was This was 1996. The emergency room doctor said, you may contract the virus. So immediately my mother was like, virus? Like pneumonia? And the doctor said, no, AIDS, because he began to bleed out at various openings of his body. And my mother said, wait, he had AIDS? And my father was shocked. My whole family is there in this quiet room. And the doctor said, yeah, he was gay. He was same gender loving. He was gay. And we just dropped to the floor. We all passed out. Because for years, my brother, who was living in the closet, and nobody ever knew, he never shared it with us, that he was gay. I am drawn to this work, thinking about my brother. I am drawn to this work in that, yes, I so believe that it is important to talk about how do we provide care for our brothers and during this age of Black Lives Matter. But something that I see us missing the boat on is how do we provide care in light of gender and sexuality. Eric Gartner's name goes viral. Tamir Rice's name goes viral. George Floyd's name goes viral. However, even though we're spending a lot of time talking about Freddie Gray and making his name go viral, and as we recently celebrate 4 years of the anniversary of his death in Baltimore, we don't call the names of the girls, the women who are killed by police brutality. Did you know? Here is the irony for me. Breonna Taylor was killed before George Floyd.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we weren't talking about Breonna Taylor's name going viral before George Floyd.
No, not.
Breonna Taylor's name went viral with George Floyd's name after George Floyd died and was killed by police brutality. Yep. Why is that? Why is it that we can protest and George Floyd's murder literally was seen all around the world? And there was a huge uproar across our entire world. Meanwhile, Breonna Taylor's death didn't become popular, famous, known, go viral on social media till after George Floyd. It's somehow seeming as if Breonna Taylor's name became a footnote or endnote or asterisk sign to George Floyd's murder. I have a problem with that. I also have a problem with the fact that, as a same gender loving Black woman myself, I work so hard to defend Black men against police brutality because I have a 12-year-old Black son, and because I grew up with 4 or 5 brothers, and because I love my father. I have no problem relentlessly defending Black men against police brutality. But the irony is, my deep sadness is I'm doing that as a gay woman. Meanwhile, some of these same brothers who I relentlessly defend, I look on social media and they are now justifying police brutality against a 15-year-old baby girl that's Black. How dare you? How dare you? And so I do this work as a shift to not only focus on Black men who are victims of brutality, but how do we begin to turn our attention to our sisters, our Black women in the Say Her Name campaign? How do we begin to draw attention to the plight of Black sisters? Number 2, did you know, according to the Human Rights Campaign, there are more Black transgender women being killed at high rates, more than African American heterosexual cisgender Black men and boys. There are more Black transgender femmes being killed at high rates, and their names never go viral. Why is that? Why is it okay for me to get behind the killing of George Floyd, but yet we are quiet as church mice around the death of our Black LGBTQIA siblings. There's so much hypocrisy. There's so much hypocrisy in that. And so I am hoping, praying that our Black Lives Matter movement shift to also thinking about gender and sexuality and how we can also protest, shut down the world when police also commit brutality against women and when violence also occurs against our African American LGBTQIA community. My next book is going to be looking at spiritual care in the age of hashtag say her name and how do we address African American, how do we address oppression against African American women and African American LGBTQIA persons. I'm telling you, in about 2-3 years, let me get done with this PhD. That's my entire PhD dissertation. How do we begin to really address that?
I'm gonna have to sit in and on your writing sessions and have you come to my class, because in the fall I am teaching police and society, but I am using a womanist perspective where the focus is on Black women.
That's it. We gotta start talking about what's happening to our sisters.
Yeah.
We're not talking about
those who have been a part of Say Her Name, but yet we don't know her name, and those law enforcement officials who are Black women and who have to make a decision every day. How do I go through the choices of blue lives and Black lives? And I think about the sister who just got her pension reinstated because she held her white male counterpart accountable when he was engaged in excessive force. And she said publicly, you cannot treat suspects like that. And she ended up getting fired. She was humiliated. She was disenfranchised, and they took everything away from her that she had worked for. And just within the last couple of weeks, she got her pension reinstated.
Wow.
So those are the stories that we need to focus on. You make me think about the book that I'm using for this semester. Next semester is by Andrea Ritchie, Invisible Reward.
Yes.
She's a bad woman, and if you all have not read this book or gotten this book, by all means, get this book. It chronicles what Dr. Buhuro is talking about as it relates to Black women. And when we say Black women, we are including Black trans women, non-conforming. We are engaging in all of the identities that come with that. And so that is one book. There's another book that I think about that is called Queer Injustice, which also speaks to what you are talking about as it relates to spiritual care for those with whom we think we have nothing in common. And their names are not trending, but they are still lives that matter. So thank you for raising those issues. What you see on your screen now is Dr. Buhuro's first book, because she just declared and decreed, if I can use churchy language, that she is going to be working on.
Go ahead, Reverend.
She is working on her second book. After she finishes, did you all catch? She said it real slow. I'm gonna say it some more. That she already has a Doctor of Ministry degree, and she is working on her PhD. So technically, when you see her in these streets, her name will be Dr. Doctor. And you better call her that every time you see her, because she has earned the right to that. There is an article that our friend Dr. Alicia Jones shared about honoring honorifics and how people are very quick to not give you what you have earned.
That's
But
it.
we
That's
give
it.
you all the power and all the glory because you have earned all of the honorifics and because you put in the work. And
Yes.
so I have this book. This is not just one that I looked at the title and said, let me look at Spark Notes. No, this is the book that I own. Okay. If you look inside, there are dog ears. There are pet use. Look, let me show you. So you know I'm not playing. Look at this. Okay. I'm a
Wow, wow,
person
wow,
who
wow,
writes
wow.
in the margins.
Wow,
Okay.
wow.
And you would rather hit a lion with a stick than take any of my books. So rather than take my book and borrow it, it's here for your it's here for your education. It is here for your use. Dr. Buhuro, how can people stay in contact with you if they wish to do so?
Send me a friend request on Facebook, Danielle J. Buhuro. Send me a friend request. I love to be friends with you. I love for us to talk and continue to attack what are action plans. Action plans are so important. Action plans are so important. Where do we go from here? Let's talk about action plan. Also, feel free to shoot me an email. Shoot me an email. Danielle.buhuro at acpe.edu. Danielle.buhuro at acpe.edu. If you're interested in taking a unit of clinical pastoral education, shoot me an email as we talk about how to be chaplains in community. I want to also direct people to thinking about the Faith Transformation Network, as they highlight wonderful work in what we call movement chaplaincy by the Faith Transformation Network. Movement chaplaincy. We need spiritual care providers in the movement, providing spiritual care to persons who are on the front lines in protest, fighting for our rights. And so it is so important. It's so important to become involved with action plans and next steps. And I want to ask on your social media, say the name of a baby girl or a sister that's been the victim of violence. Bring attention and awareness. The same way we brought attention and awareness to George Floyd, let's bring attention and awareness to our baby girls like Ma'Khia Bryant and our sisters and our Black trans femmes who have been the victim of violence, and we're just not we're just not talking about that. Oh, please, 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 let's bring an awareness and make that go viral. Make that go viral. Also, I want to encourage you to share mental health resources on your social media page. If I could be so kind, I want to name some websites real quick. I want you to write down these websites. We need mental health in our community like never before. And so
Mhm.
I want to invite you. I want to invite you to share these websites on your social media page. BlackTherapistRock.com. www.blacktherapist with an S rock rock.com. Black therapists with an S rock.com. Also, we have therapy for black girls with S.com. www.therapyforblackgirls.com. Then please check out www.therapyforblackmen.org. Therapyforblackmen.org. And then do me a favor, family, check out the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective. Their website is www.beam.community. That's it. www.beam.community. That's it. No .com or .org after. Beam.community. And that's it. And then last but not least, check out Melanin and Mental Health. Melaninandmentalhealth.com. Melaninandmentalhealth.com. MELANIN mentalhealth.com. And for all of our LGBTQIA brothers and sisters and siblings, the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network. The National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network. Their website is nqttcn.com, www.nqttcn.com. You cannot do this work. You cannot be in health professions without a mental health therapist. And in light of police brutality and racism, I'm saying we need to seek mental health therapy and social service resources from people. So please, family, share that on your social media if you wouldn't mind being so kind. I want to say, let me say this. Oh, I got to make it good. I want to thank the Reverend Natasha Robinson for this invitation to be a part of Legaleaze. Please, I want to thank the Reverend Natasha Robinson and family. I know she's an attorney. I know she's an attorney, and I know she's a professor. But I felt a call to a Master of Divinity degree and a D-Man degree. I don't know. I don't know. I felt it. I was Baptist before I was UCC, so every now and then my Baptist kicks up in me. So I don't know. I was
Well,
feeling.
kick it out, because what I'm doing right now is my calling, which is to speak truth to the power that is already in us through Legaleaze.
Okay. All right.
So
All
yes,
right.
I'm saying amen
Okay.
on that before I give
All right.
another benediction. But I just want to say thank you. So I can't thank you enough for your expertise, your spirit, your passion, and your relatability.
Thank
You
you. Thank
didn't
you.
just give us the theories, but you gave us the practice. You put some meat on the bones. And that is always helpful in a time where we need help. We need
That's
help
it.
as a community. And sometimes we know that we need help, but we may not know where to go. And
That's
so
it.
you have provided that vein of assistance in a context and a content that we can feast upon and be nourished and passed on to other people. So thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
very,
you, my
very
sister.
much.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Thank
hang
you.
on for 1 minute. For those who are just watching, we thank you for joining. For those who've been rocking and riding with us the whole time, we thank you. For those who are going to be watching the replay, we welcome you and thank you. And we ask that you would like, love, and share this video with as many people as you want. Now, you know, we have no problem sharing the things that sometimes don't really matter in life. So this matters, okay? This matters. Make sure that you share this with people, because sometimes people are suffering in silence and they never
That's
tell
it.
you. They
That's
never
it.
know. But this may be the lifeline that they need to try and go on just a little while longer. So
That's
please
it.
do that. If you feel you have any other topics that you would like Legalese please to discuss in the area of criminal law, then make sure that you email me at legaleaseplease@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, IG, YouTube, and Twitter. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're trying to raise the number of subscribers. Please, while you are on these internet, make sure that you get Dr. Buhuro's book, Spiritual Care in the Age of Black Lives Matter. And know that the next time Legally Please will be before you is on Saturday, May 1st. Legally Please is going to be having a free offering to young people, and it is going to be a law day lecture at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Bring all your young people. I am going to be lecturing about what young people need to know in these times, okay? So whether you are actually young, based on your government records, or whether you are young at heart, make sure that you come on by.
Hey.
It's going to be streamed on my Facebook page, the Legalese page, and YouTube. So make sure that you share that if you want to pre-register, even though it's free. I kind of want to know who you are and what issues you want me to address. So you can go to this website. It will take you to a Google form, and that will allow me to hear from you what you would like to know. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to guess, and I'm a pretty good guesser, but I want to know from
That's
you
the
what
that's
it
the
is
that's the that's the gift of prophecy in
that
there,
is.
Reverend.
No, no, no,
Reverend.
no, 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 no,
Reverend.
no,
That's
no.
that
That's
that's
not
that
that.
gift of prophecy, Reverend.
No, no, no. See, usually I'll be like, flesh and blood have not revealed that to thee. But I'm not going to say that because I can say all of these things because I'm a preacher kid. So I
That's it,
know
that's it,
all
that's
of
it.
the
That's it.
lingo.
All
I
right.
am well,
All
I am
right,
all things
Reverend.
to all people.
Okay, okay. So Facebook family, humor me. Do me a favor. Do me a
Don't
favor.
do
God
it.
go. We gonna start referring to my sister Natasha as Reverend. We gonna call it
You'll
out.
never,
We gonna call it
I'll
out.
never say
Come
nothing to
on.
you. I'll never say nothing to you. I'm telling you right now, I declare and decree. If you call me that, that will be ignored. Okay, that will be ignored. So don't let her get you in no trouble. Okay, okay, beloved, let's stay that way. So we thank you all so very, very, very much. We love you and adore you, and may you have the best day and weekend possible. And
Amen.
remember to center your joy. Okay,
That's
the
it.
times
That's
in
it.
which we live, you will forget. You will forget, but try to make just a little intentional decisions to center your joy and know that we are here for you. So you all take
That's
care
it.
and have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.